Hey, what's up everybody? Thanks for tuning into another video. In this one I'm going to be exploring the idea of white people like myself reviewing rap and R&B music. I'm white, obviously, and I'm a huge fan of hip-hop, but by nature this can be problematic. And since I don't typically listen to music passively, I form strong opinions and critiques on what I hear. And this can make the problem even worse. Because to critique rap music is to critique black culture, and who am I to have any say in this realm? Although I simply don't take this art form at face value, and I've done my research on the roots of hip-hop, I will never truly understand what the black experience is, and therefore never truly connect to the words of a black artist voicing their lived experience. I've listened to rap for many years now, and I've engaged in a lot of discussions about it, but now that I've begun to publicly release videos on YouTube, I think it's important to explore the issue of appreciation versus appropriation before I go any further with my plans of releasing music reviews on this channel. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. Appropriation to me is taking something significant from a culture that's not your own and using it for your own benefit without paying any respect, recognition, or praise to the original owner. This can be harmful to people of color because it's a dilution of their culture, especially when what was stolen from them is so grossly misrepresented and proudly displayed by a white person who doesn't acknowledge their own privilege. Appreciation, on the other hand, is taking inspiration from another culture and incorporating elements of it into your own work, while also contributing back to it and working with people of that culture whenever it's feasible to do so. This can be a fine line, and it's important to fully share the story about where you're coming from when you comment on, draw from, or critique another culture's artistic output. So I'm going to tell you my history with rap music and why it's so important to me. My discovery of rap music came in the early 2000s, and coming from a punk rock background, initially I wasn't a fan. I wasn't used to the sound palette, and I didn't really understand the appeal. But after years of rejection of the genre as a whole, it became harder to discredit over time. In high school, rap music was really on the rise in popularity, and it's pretty much all you heard at parties. And even though most of the mainstream pop rap that was being played wasn't really my favorite, every so often I'd hear a song that would really catch my ear. 3 6 Mafia stands out as one of the earliest artists that I started to really enjoy. Their sound was just so interesting and different, and their lyrical content wasn't really the run-of-the-mill stuff that I'd become accustomed to. And then I discovered Tupac, which was a huge turning point for me, and it was the first rap music you could ever find in my MP3 player. I was entranced by the stories that he was telling about the struggle that he went through, and I found it very inspiring. Of course, I couldn't relate to what he was talking about, and for a majority of the kids who showed me the music in the first place, neither could they. Here's where the distinction between appropriation and appreciation became a little bit more clear. All of the white suburban kids singing and dancing along to Tupac and Biggie didn't really sit right with me, and I knew that if I was going to continue consuming this form of media, I would have to critically look at why and how. Me and my friends were a group of mostly white, low-income kids from the bad part of town. We partied a lot and funded our drugged out nights by doing petty crime. We looked up to Biggie Smalls, Tupac, Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, Andre Nicotina, because on some level we thought we could relate to what they were talking about, even though we couldn't, but we felt cool dealing drugs, listening to their music loudly in the background. But through all those drunken nights and constant drug use, it was pretty easy to miss the nuance in their lyrics. Eventually, though, that changed for me because I started to explore the genre a bit more for myself, and I came across a lot of music that wasn't so easy to ignore. Tupac, of course, was a huge part of this deeper exploration, but there are lots of other artists and songs as well. One song in particular stands out to me a lot when I think about this. It's a song called Dance with the Devil by Immortal Technique. A song that demands your attention and forces you to confront how you feel about street life, gang culture, and the commodification of the female body. There was so much more to the experiences of these black artists that were being communicated and expressed through these songs than initially hits the ear, and this realization really changed how I looked at the genre. And I began to understand that my initial distaste for the genre wasn't a sonic one. It was rooted in a long history of systematic racism, and because of my sheltered upbringing, I had a complete misunderstanding of the culture as a whole. I also decided that my problematic passive listening to of the music, without fully trying to understand it and give it its proper respect, was no longer acceptable, and things had to change. This was the beginning of the hip-hop nerddom. I went all the way back to the 70s and found out everything I could about what made rap music what it is today. Ashamed of how I had treated the genre previously, I was eager to learn the truth behind it all. and I became to understand how vital its role was in the modern African American story. Lots of stories told in rap are authentic representations of what it's like growing up black in different cities in America. And what many people who are against what they see as glorification of drugs, violence, and decadence don't understand is that it's not a glorification at all. Instead, it should be seen as a set of parables and allegories about what it's like growing up in underfunded areas of cities dealing with constant racism your whole life. Rappers do a great job at painting a vivid picture of the struggles they went through and the extent of their efforts to escape them. Rap has been used for years as a way to provide wealth and stability for families with rough beginnings, and at the same time spread awareness of the experiences of black men and women all around the world, and that the effects of systematic racism and slavery are still very much alive today. It's also been used as a strong political tool to speak out against the mistreatment of people of color, especially by way of police brutality. More recently, in my early 20s and onward, I've been attracted to artists who are more direct with this narrative and who have sidestepped a lot of the dangers that a new wave of rap popularity has brought. Caused by the adoption of white suburban kids with a drug habit, it's created a lucrative lane to stay on that topic. But some of my favorite rappers, like Lupe Fiasco, Kendrick Lamar, Royce the 5'9", and J. Cole, have done a great job at speaking out against that. But being a huge fan of conscious rap, I'm starting to see that this can cause even more of a problem than dancing and partying to the more poppy, non-political, and gangster rap of the 90s. Since Lupe Fiasco and Kendrick Lamar do such a great job at illustrating the pain caused by systematic racism and the tragic stories of many black youth growing up in the inner city, a listener like myself, although educated and enlightened by these songs, can also begin to believe that they truly understand these struggles and even think that they can empathize. If I hear a rap detailing a story about doing crime or dealing drugs in the city and I think, oh yeah, I've done that, I know what he's talking about, I know how he feels, I need to catch myself. First of all, no, I don't know. Just because I was trying to emulate a gangster life when I was younger doesn't mean that I get it. I never had to do those things. Nobody forced me. I didn't have to support my mother because there was no father in the home. I didn't have to make X amount of dollars because I couldn't get hired anywhere because of my skin color. Although I can appreciate rap music, and I do, I have to be careful not to cross the line over into appropriation because it is a very fine line, especially if I'm going to be critiquing it. I've yet to put out public reviews on this channel, and before I do, I just want to make sure that my intentions are in the right place and that I pay respect and recognition where it's due. That being said, I'm going to do my best to stay true to my instincts when making reviews and giving critique. I know the whole genre of music review isn't looked at with a high regard from musicians in the first place, but I'm really passionate about it, and I think if it's done correctly, it's acceptable that I continue with it. So that's it. Let me know your opinions on it. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for hanging out, you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.